Assalamu alaikum. This is Zaihan Rashid from Happy Strong Family. Today I want to speak to all of you for a few minutes about how our immunity can be boosted by eating healthy. With all the scare of the coronavirus and the isolation and the loneliness that associates with itself, with it, I think an important effect is also to recognize the food that we're eating and the drinks that we're drinking and how much that has an effect on us. So just to give you an indication of what concern about this is, I want to point out that there was almost a study of almost 200 countries which involved 11 million deaths in 2017 which were related to poor diet, which I think is quite sad. Allah Ta'ala has told us in the Surah Baqarah, Ayah 168, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Ya ayyuhan nasu kulu mimma fil ardi halalan tayyiban wa la tattabi'u khutubati shaitan innahu lakum aduwwun mubin. O mankind, eat from what is both healthy, or lawful rather I should say, and healthy. And don't follow the footsteps of shaitan. I find that such an interesting concept that Allah has put together in one ayah, where eating food is linked with potentially following the footsteps of shaitan. The Prophet ﷺ has told us in a Sahih Hadith, two benefits are given to everyone, but most people don't utilize it. Of course, they are good health and time, or free time. We've also been told that we should not fill more than 1/3 of our stomach with food, 1/3 of it with liquids, and leave 1/3 empty. Really, if we think about food as a medication versus something that's tasty, something that's good to fill our stomachs with, it really starts to become a very different way of thinking. And the Prophet ﷺ also has said, Muhammad peace be upon him, he said, the worst vessel to fill indeed is the stomach. And really there are more than a few things from the tradition of the Prophet Muhammad peace be upon him where healthy eating is just a part of a normal existence of daily life. And because of that lack of concern with food and the amount of food and the type of food, the Ummah, the Muslim Ummah in particular, has now fallen into this situation where we have the highest incidence of heart disease, high incidence of diabetes, high incidence of other related diseases such as blood pressure and even cancer, which are now related to food. So I think it's important that we pay attention to this, because a Muslim is concerned with wellness in all aspects of life. And the Prophet ﷺ indeed in the Hadith from Bukhari has said obesity will appear among the people. And if you look at the Muslim global situation, we are sadly amongst the highest obesity statistics in the world. In the top 10 countries that were elaborated by the World Health Organization, Muslim countries predominated the statistical obesity amongst the world population, which is of course not an enviable statistic at all. So to give you an example, Middle Eastern countries were under very high incidence, but so was countries like Mexico and United States, which were at 9 and 10. Umar al-Khattab, the second caliph, pointed to a man's obese stomach and asked him what that was, at which he responded by saying that was a mercy of Allah. And Umar bin Khattab said, no, in fact, it's a punishment of Allah. And remembering the leading cause of death are heart disease, cancer, respiratory disease, etc., which are directly or indirectly, not chronic respiratory disease, but definitely heart disease and cancer have a big component in terms of food, particularly unhealthy food. So I want to emphasize that we have to particularly watch the sources of sugar in our diet, which can come from juices, which can come from yogurt, which can come from so-called energy nutrition bars, which can also come from dried fruit if it's excessively. It's in things like ketchup. It really has a very diverse source, so we have to be very careful about what we are utilizing. To boost our immunity, we need things like fresh vegetables. So, broccoli, for example, fresh carrots, strawberries, oat bran, grapes, more fresh fruit, really, fresh foods preferably, and fewer foods that are sold in a packing. And then to avoid things like cane juice, fruit juice concentrate, brown rice syrup, malt syrup, corn syrup, date syrup, etc. These really are giving you large sources of synthetic sugar. Instead, go for fresh fruits, pears, apples, bananas, strawberries, blueberries, avocados, honey, even dark chocolate. But these things really are known to produce an effect on our immunity. So, really, with the prevalent condition of immunity being a big concern in all of this situation with the coronavirus, I'm suggesting to all of us that we should look carefully at our diet. So, start your day, for example, with whole grains. Oatmeal, particularly, is a smart choice. And then also the fiber content of these high fiber foods actually curtails your lower density lipoprotein or cholesterol. So it's actually a marvelous way to start your day. Also, avoid things like full fat dairy products, high fat products of meat, butter, palm oil, because they all are known to increase or lower density lipoproteins, in particular cholesterol, to make life easier. And similarly, white bread, white potatoes, white rice, pastries, they all increase blood sugar. And they also have, sadly, this effect where levels plateau out very quickly and then fall, so that the person becomes hungry very quickly yet again. In terms of eating out, which of course right now the situation it is, nobody's going out, but really restaurant food can be loaded with saturated fat, calories, and sodium. Sodium is another disaster in terms of what it does to the blood pressure, etc. So choose instead of broiled, baked, steamed, grilled foods, etc. And if you are going to get sauces, then you really need to look carefully what the content of that sauce is. When you're buying food outside, check the labels. Check the label of sodium. Check the level of saturated fat. Check the level of additives. These things are really a big factor in producing a bad diet. Remembering that belly fat in men and women is actually known to be one of the biggest predictors of heart disease. As a end to this topic and to this talk, I'd like to point out that our predecessors, our ancestors knew that more food makes us lazy, and laziness causes us to miss out on a lot of things like Fajr Salah, for example, the first morning Salah, or for that matter, Tahajjud, the late night ibadah and the late night prayer. And then, of course, sleeping too much, needless to say, it loses on valuable time. So, more food, particularly rich food, energy-rich food, will actually cause more sleep, which will result, in fact, in less time available to do productive activities. 9 out of 10 Canadians have at least one risk factor for heart disease and stroke. 80% of premature heart disease and stroke is preventable through healthy behaviors. So eating healthy, being active, living smoke-free, which is another big risk factor, have actually a big effect on our improvement. So what can we do? Just to wrap up this topic. First, eat healthy by looking at the kind of food you're eating. Eat low calorie, high nutrition, fresh foods as much as possible. Avoid dairy and meat with high fat content. Number 3, increase fresh fruits and vegetables in your diet, 6 to 8 per day. Look at websites like Canada Food Guide, etc., which actually give you a very good way of calculating how much food you should be eating and what are recommended calories. For example, in active men, there will be about 4,500 calories. In women, it will be a little less. Obviously, in younger children, the calorie requirements will be a little less. And in active adults, the calorie requirements will be less also. Fast food, particularly deep fried food like samosas, onion rings, chips, all of these things really have a very high content of cholesterol, which is unhealthy food, unhealthy fat. Similarly, concentrate on whole grain foods, avoiding processed foods. If you are going to eat sugar, make sure that you know the amount of sugar that's present, make sure you know the type of sugar that's present. Really, reading labels is a big part of this whole, if you like, prevention strategy that has to be developed. I want to finish this video, inshallah, by thanking all of you for listening patiently to what may appear to be very discouraging advice from not being able to eat all your favorite foods. I'd like to emphasize that living healthy and living long actually compensates adequately for somebody who has been, you know, very selective in the kind of foods he or she has eaten, and has therefore reaped the benefits as they get older, where not only do they expect to have more energy, but also expect to live healthier, longer lives. I ask, inshallah, all of you to please consider looking into this a little bit more by looking at the known resources. One of them, as I mentioned, is Canada Food Guide. This is Zaihan Rashid signing off on behalf of Happy Strong Family. More of our videos can be found on our website called happy.strong.family.com or our YouTube channel, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.